this video, I want to walk you through how I would decide what processes I use to machine this part, and then let that guide how I would make the configurations of the part. So I've modeled up the valve body as shown in your jig and fixture notes. And next, I want to add configurations. Well, this would be a cast part. So this hole would be much smaller. Right now it's almost 2-inch diameter. There would be a cast hole here. This probably would not be cast. There'd be at least 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters on this face. These holes wouldn't exist. Same thing with this face. Any face to be machined would have at least 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch would have at least 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch of material on the face. So this would be thicker. These holes wouldn't exist, and this may or may not exist. This hole currently diameter is 562, so it probably wouldn't exist. Same thing with the bottom of the part. There'd be another 1/8 of an inch here. So to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the configuration manager. I'm going to right click on the valve body, and I'm going to add a configuration. I'm going to call this op 5, and the description is going to be the as cast part. So I'm going to say OK. And then, as I stated earlier, notice the color, the appearance is gone, because the appearance was only with that configuration. We'll look at that in a So right now I'm focusing on making the as cast part. So as I said earlier, there'd be 1/8 of an inch above this. So I'm going to select this surface and I'm going to create a reference plane 1/8 of an inch above it, or I can just extrude from this surface. Now the outside profile of this would not be machined. That would stay as cast, so I don't have to worry about it. So I either create my offset plane or I just work from this face. In this case, I'm just going to work from this face. So I'm going to select the face. I'm going to make an extrude boss, and I'm going to convert all the outside edges. So I'm just going to click on white space so this isn't selected, and I'm going to say convert entities. I'm just going to select an edge by right clicking, and I'm going to tell it to select the loop or select the tangency. So I'll say select loop. It's got the correct loop, and I'll say OK. And then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to offset this bore in 1/4 inch. So I'm also going to offset the entity. I'll select this circular edge. I'll set the size up to 0.25 because I want to remove 1/8 of an inch material. It's going the wrong way, so I'll reverse it and I'll say OK. So I have my 2 sketches. I'm going to exit the sketch and I'm going to go up that 1/8 of an inch, and then in direction 2 I'm going to tell it to go up to surface, and I'm going to choose this face. And that now represents the as cast part. I would do the exact same thing on this base. And then I would come around here and I would also do this face. So I've converted the edges of the bottom and also made this as cast. One of my next steps is to finish off the inside bore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this face, I'm going to do another extruded boss, and again I'm going to convert this edge. And then I'm going to convert this outside edge. I'll right click to accept that. And because it's converted, I can drag its endpoint around and make it a closed circle. I'll right click to exit my sketch. And I'm going to extrude that the opposite direction. I'm just going to use the through all. I'll say OK. And now I have that as cast. Next, I'm going to close off this. So I'm going to select this face. Again, I'm going to make an extrude boss. I'll click in white space so it's no longer selected. I'll convert this entity, and I'm going to assume this would be solid and there'd be no hole. So I can accept that. I'll right click to exit my sketch. And I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch this way. And for direction 2, I'm going to tell it up to surface. I'm going to rotate around, and I'm going to come up to this surface. Unfortunately, that's not the end I want, so I'll have to change the end condition. Let's try up to next, and that works. So I'll say OK, and now I've filled in everything. Now I think my part's done, but I can see this, so I suspect there's holes still in there. For the purpose of this assignment, that would be fine, but to fix that, let's double check. So I'm going to select the right plane, and I'm going to create a section view. I'll say OK. And yeah, as I suspected, there's holes here. Again, for the purpose of your assignment, that's fine. But to fix that, I would come back to the Boss Extrude. I'm just going to select it. I'm going to edit the feature and I'll change the end condition. So rather than up to next, I'm going to put it back to blind. And I'm just going to grab this arrow and I'm going to drag it in here. I'm going to have a look. Just want to make sure I don't go into this inner hole. That'll work. I'll say OK, or I think it'll work. I say OK, and yes, it does work. So I'll end the section view. So this is almost ready for as cast. The last thing to do is to add a fillet around all these sharp edges. Again, if I don't, there's a chance for cracking. So I'll make sure I fillet all the edges, and then I'm ready to move on. So in the next video, we'll look at how I would create the next configuration.